The Red Etin. There were once two widows that lived on a small bit of ground, which they rented from a farmer. One of them had two sons and had one dame, and by and by it was time for the wife to have the two sons go and send away to seek their fortune. So, told the oldest son one day to take a can and bring him water from the well, and that she'd bake a cake for him, and however much or however little water he might bring, the cake would be great or small accordingly. And the cake was to be that she would give him when he went on his travels. The lad got away with the can to the well and filled with water, and came back to home again. But the can being broken, the water was run out before he got back. So his cake was very small, and small it was. His mother asked if he was willing to take half of it with a blessing, and tell him that if he chose rather to have the whole, he would only get with her the curse. The young man, thinking he may have to travel far away, and not knowing when or how he might get the provisions, he said he would like to have the whole cake. Come of his mother's malediction with that. So she gave him the whole cake, and the mellow song along with it. Then he took his brother aside and gave him a knife to keep till he could come back, desiring him to have a look at it every morning, and as long as it was continued to be clear, then he might be sure that the owner of it is well. But if it grew dim and rusty for some certain time, it had fallen ill and had fallen on him. So the young man went out to seek his fortune, and he gave a day, and a day and the next. Then on the third day, it was afternoon, he came up to where his shepherd was sitting on a flock of sheep. He gave up with the shepherd and asked him what the flock belonged to, and the man answered, "The Red Etin of Ireland once lived in Belligand, and stole King Malcolm's daughter, the fair King of fair Scotland. He beats her, he binds her, he lays her on a band, and every day he dings her with a bright silver wand. Like Julian the Roman, he's one that fears no man. It's said that ain't predestinate to be his mortal foe, but that man ain't yet born, and it may be so." The young man went on his journey, and had not gone far when he espied an old man with white locks of herding a flock of swine. He gave up to him and asked him who the swines were. And when the man answered, oh god, this is going to be so much fun trying to do this. The Red Etin of Ireland hence lived in Belligand. He stole King Malcolm's daughter, the King of fair Scotland. He beats her, he binds her, he lays her on a band. Every day he dings her with a bright silver wand. Like Julian the Roman, he fears no man. It's said that them's predestinates to be his mortal foe, but the man ain't yet born, and may it be so. And the young man gazed a bit farther, and came across another very old man herding goats, and when he asked whose goats they were, his answer was this: "The Red Etin of Ireland hence lived in Belligand. He stole King Malcolm's daughter, the King of fair Scotland. He beats her, he binds her, he lays her on a band, and every day he dings her with a bright silver wand. Like Julian the Roman, he's one that fears no man. And it's said predestinates to be his mortal foe, but that man ain't yet born, and may it be so." The old man was also told him to be aware of the next beasts that he should meet, for they were the very different kind of any he had seen. So the young man went on, and by he saw a multitude of very dreadful beasts, elk and ane with them, with 12 heads, and every head 4 horns. And he was sore frightened, and ran away from them fast as he could, and was glad when he came to a castle which stood in the hillock, with the door standing wide away. So he gazed into the castle for shelter, and there he saw old wife sitting beside the kitchen fire. He asked the wife if he might stay there for the night, for he was tired with a long journey. And the wife said he might, but but it was not a good place for him, as it belonged to Red Etin. It was a very terrible beast with 3 heads that spared no living man he could get hold of. The young man would have gone away, but he was afraid of the beast that was outside the castle, so he beseeched the old woman to conceal him as well as she could, and not to tell Etin that he was there. He thought if he could put over the night, he might get away in the morning without meeting the beasts, and so escape. But he had not been long when the hidey-hole, when the awful Etin came in, and no sooner was he in that he was heard crying, "Snake, bought and snake, Ben, I found the smell of an earthly man. He be living or be he dead. His heart this night shall be my kitchen bread." The monster soon found the poor young man and pulled him out of his hole. And when he got him out, he told him that if he could answer him 3 questions, his life would be spared. First was, whether Ireland or Scotland was first inhabited. The second was whether man was made for woman or woman made for man. The third was whether beasts or brutes was made first. The lad not being able to answer one of these questions, the Red Etin took a mace and knocked him in the head and turned him into a pillar of stone. On the morning after this happened, the younger brother took out the knife and looked at it, and was grieved to find it brown with rust. He told his mother that this time it's now come for him to go away upon his travels, so she requested him to take a can to the well of water, and she might bake him a cake. For a can being broken, he brought home a little water as the other had done, and the cake was as little. She asked whether he would take half the cake with the medicine, or half with a blessing. And like his brother, he thought it best to take the whole cake, come on the medicine that might. So he gave away, and everything happened to him as happened to his brother. The other widow of her son heard what had happened, afraid of a fairy, and the young man determined that he would also go upon his travels, and see if he could do anything to relieve his 2 friends. When his mother gave him a can to go to the well and bring home water, that she might bake a cake for his journey. And he was bringing home the water, the raven came over his head and cried to him, "Look," and he would see that the water was running out. And he was a young man of sense, and seeing that the water ran out, he took some clay and patched up the hole so that he brought enough water to make a large cake. When his mother put it to him to have half a cake with a blessing, or in the preference of having the whole cake or medicine. And yet the half was bigger with what the other lads gotten altogether. So he carried away on his journey, and after he travelled as far as he met the old woman, that asked him if he would give her a bit of his bannock. He said he would gladly do that. When he gave her a piece of the bannock, and for that she gave him a magical wand, that she said might be of service to him if he took care of it and used it lightly. And then the old woman, who was a fairy, told him a great deal that would happen to him, and what he ought to do in the circumstances. And after that she vanished in an instant out of sight. He gave him way further when he came upon a man herding sheep, and when he asked whose sheep he was, the answer was, here we go again, the Red Etin of Ireland, and won the Belligan. He stole the King Malcolm's daughter, the King of fair Scotland. He beats her, he binds her, he lays her with a band, and every day he dings her with a bright silver wand. Like Julian the Roman, he is not one that his fears one no man. But now I fear his end is near, and destiny at hand, and you're to be, I plainly see, the heir to all his land. I went on and did the same inquiries with the man with the goats and the man with the sows, and they each gave him the same answer. Thankfully, I don't have to repeat it 2 more times, because I'll repeat it once more just for the hell of it. The Red Etin of Ireland once lived in Belligan, and stole King Malcolm's daughter, the King of fair Scotland. He beats her, he binds her, he lays her on a band, and every day he dings her with his bright silver wand. Like Julian the Roman, he's one that fears no man, but now I fear his end is near, and destiny at hand. And you're to be, I plainly see, the heir of all his land. When he came to the place where the monstrous beasts were standing, he did not stop nor run away, but went boldly through among them. One came up roaring with his mouth open to devour him, where he struck it with his wand, and laid it in an instant dead at his feet. He soon came to Etin's castle, where he knocked and was admitted. The old woman that sat by the fire warned him of terrible Etin, and what he had been the fate of two brothers, who he was not at least bit daunted. The monster soon came in, saying, "Snout butt and snout bend, I find the smell of an earthly man. But be he living or be he dead, his heart shall be night my kitchen bread." He quickly espied the young man and bade him come forth to the floor, and then he put 3 questions to him, but the young man had been told everything by the good fairy. So he was able to answer the questions. When Etin found this, he knew his power was gone. The young man then took up the axe and hewed off the monster's 3 heads. He next asked the old woman to show him where the king's daughters lay. And the old woman took him upstairs and opened a great many doors, and out of every door came a beautiful lady who had been imprisoned there by the Etin. And one of the ladies was the king's daughter. She also took him down into the low room, and where stood 2 stone pillars that he only had to touch with his wand, when his 2 friends and neighbors started back to life. And the hail of the prisoners was overjoyed at the deliverance, which they all acknowledged to be an omen to the prudent young man. Next day they set out to the king's court, and a gallant company they made. And the king married his daughter to the young man that delivered her, and gave her noble daughters ilk and reign with the other young men. And so they lived happily all the rest of their days.